What's up, guys? So as some of you already know, I worked as an anchor for the Chennai Super Kings during the 2022 season of the IPL. I was with the team for 3 months straight from the start of CSK's pre-season training camp until the very end of the season, living in the same hotel and traveling wherever the team traveled, which meant that I had the enviable opportunity to observe at close quarters how MS Dhoni operates both on as well as off the field. And through my keen observations, I was able to extract some invaluable life lessons from MS Dhoni that I thought about sharing in the form of this video. Now, before we get to the lessons, I think it's only appropriate that I introduce myself for those of you who are new to my channel. My name is Anubhav Jain, and I'm a former Goldman Sachs investment banker who's currently plying his trade as a freelance presenter and writer, with most of my presenting and writing work being in the field of sports. And in case you're confused about my drastic pivot from banking to presenting, don't worry, you're not alone. I'm equally confused. But what I'm not confused about is the fact that I love sharing my life's experiences on this channel, or at the risk of sounding cheesy, Anubhav loves sharing Anubhav ke Anubhav and all the life lessons that he's learned through those experiences. So it's very nice to meet you, albeit virtually. And now that we're done with the formalities, let's get to the lessons, shall we? Lesson number 1 is MS Dhoni and the art of detached attachment, which is something that R. Sridhar, the former fielding coach of Team India, who shared the dressing room with MS Dhoni for many years, beautifully explains in his book called Coaching Beyond. And R. Sridhar says in this excerpt where he's talking about MS Dhoni, that something that he learned from MS Dhoni is that you should never want anything too much. When you want something too much or too badly, you get attached to it. Once that happens, emotion comes between you and what you are trying to achieve. If you want something too much, you should find a way of letting go of it and strike a middle path where you develop detached attachment. How beautiful is that? Detached attachment, where you're attached to something but not so attached that that one thing that you're attached to completely ends up dictating your happiness and sadness. You know, when you want something too badly, then the highs are very high when the thing that you're attached to delivers. But in the event that, God forbid, the thing that you're attached to does not deliver, then the lows are also very low. And so MS isn't trying to say that you shouldn't be attached to things, you shouldn't desire things, you shouldn't have goals. You should have all of those things, but every now and then you should be able to actually take a step back, where you take a bird's eye view as opposed to always being in the thick of things, as opposed to being overly attached to that thing that you want. Because then you end up ceding way too much control or power to that thing. And that's a beautiful segue to my second point, which is that MS Dhoni keeps things very simple, both on as well as off the field. And he's able to do this because of his detached style of attachment. Because of this style of attachment, it prevents him from overthinking. It prevents him from overanalyzing, which is something that plagues us. And even in an age where big data has such a massive influence over our decision making, MS Dhoni will not trust any of their data. Instead, he's going to trust his gut while making big calls, big decisions on the field. And simple is exactly how he operates off the field as well. No pretense, no glitz, no razzmatazz, no glamour. But quite ironically, that's exactly what makes him so glamorous. In a nutshell, MS shows, without even trying to, that simple can be very sexy. And that being simple isn't at all tantamount to being a simpleton. And I've got a beautiful story that drives home this point. So during the 2022 season of the IPL, each team had to be a part of a biosecure bubble because of COVID. So CSK had its own biosecure bubble, so did RCB, and so on and so forth. And while we were in the biosecure bubble, we had a barber assigned to us. And during one of my visits to the barber, I pressed him to tell me some of the conversations that he has with the CSK players while he's cutting their hair or grooming their beards. The barber told me that almost every single one of the CSK players had very detailed and specific requests for how they wanted the hair to be styled or the beards to be groomed. And he went on to describe some of those requests to me, some of which I couldn't help but find amusing. But MS Dhoni was a stark aberration. He told me that when MS Dhoni had come to visit the barber in the hotel hair salon, all MS Dhoni told the barber was, "Bas chote kar de." The barber told me that upon getting that instruction from MSD, if you could even call it an instruction, the barber couldn't help but chuckle. But he wasn't the least bit surprised given the simple man that MSD is. It was only upon the barber insisting that MSD experiment with something that's more stylish, albeit marginally, than what "Bas chote kar de" would result in, that Dhoni yielded to the barber's insistence. Look, I'd be remiss if I created a video extolling MSD's virtues without talking about the calmness that MSD exudes at all times that has such an infectious effect on the players that he shepherds. Even when CSK was having a forgettable IPL 2022 campaign, the players remained calm at all times. And that's because even during the shaky times, the captain kept his cool by being a paragon of calmness that the others could look up to for solace. Now, the reason MSD is able to remain calm at all times, even during times when results might not be going his team's way, is because of his mantra to always control the controllables. Or in other words, simply trust and follow the process and not fret about the results. MSD believes that if you have an unflinching commitment to the process, especially if the process is one that's paid dividends on numerous occasions in the past, the results will take care of themselves. If not now, then sooner rather than later. The following line in the Bhagavad Gita beautifully encapsulates this thought process. You have the right to work, but for the work's sake only. You have no right to the fruits of work. Having said that, it's not that the pressure doesn't get to Dhoni. He's human after all, as much as his superhuman achievements might want to make us believe otherwise. But he's devised coping mechanisms and strategies to stay calm even when pressure might be trying its very best to creep up on him. One such strategy, as I learned from one of the players, is playing his favorite board game in the few hours leading up to the team's departure for the stadium. Because doing so offsets his matchday nerves and helps him remain neutral and balanced. Another way in which he eases his nerves is by leaving absolutely no stone unturned in terms of his preparation, even at the age of 42 and even after having achieved everything that there is to achieve in the game of cricket. Season in and season out, CSK start the pre-season practice camp a solid month before the commencement of the season and well ahead of when other franchises start their respective training camps. Now, who's the man behind the decision? MS Dhoni, of course. And MS Dhoni is without fail the first one to report to pre-season training camp. And unless he's carrying a niggle, he makes it a point to attend every single one of the practice sessions leading up to the start of the season. They say confidence stems from preparation. And there's no one, absolutely no one better than MS Dhoni who does justice to this maxim. Lastly, he's a man of very few words, even during team meetings. To borrow from what Devon Conway once told me during an interview, while MS may not be the most wordy, you better believe that each of his words is worth its weight in gold. As a side note, I ought to mention that I never knew Devon Conway was so poetic. It's because of the fact that MSD speaks selectively and only when he feels that he has something valuable and significant to share do people invariably stop to listen with rapt attention on the rare occasions when he does speak. In a nutshell, MSD drives home the fact that one need not be overly wordy and vocal to put one's points across. As author Robert Greene beautifully sums up in his bestseller, The 48 Laws of Power, the more you say, the more common you appear and the less in control. But sometimes when you say less, you could be misconstrued as being standoffish. However, I learned through my interviews with the CSK players as well as the CSK support staff that despite not being the loudest, most vocal and outgoing person there is, MSD never closes his room door and is accessible at all times. I learned that MSD's room is the meeting point for all FIFA enthusiasts who could walk into MSD's room at any time of the day or night to play a game or two or three of FIFA. Look, I could go on and on extolling MSD's virtues, but I'm going to refrain from doing more of it lest I turn this video into a documentary. So I'll conclude proceedings by expressing my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to MSD for the indelible impact that the power of his example left on me. But my heartfelt thanks and gratitude doesn't just go to MSD. It goes to you as well for watching this video from start to finish. I hope against all hope that through this video, you were able to extract golden nuggets of wisdom that you, just like me, can put to good use in your life. And if you reckon that you did, my humble request to you to number 1, like this video. Good job. Number 2, subscribe to my channel. Look at you guys on a roll. And number 3, let me know in the comment section which was your favorite lesson, because a particular lesson can speak to different people in different ways. And so I'd be very interested in knowing which of the lessons that I talked about resonated with you the most. For me, my favorite lesson was the first one that I talked about, the art of detached attachment, because this is a mistake that I make frequently where I end up getting way too attached to a particular thing, a particular endeavor, or sometimes even a particular person, as a result of which I end up giving that thing or person way too much control or influence over my happiness and sadness. If you enjoyed this video, you might also enjoy these two videos where I delve deep into the psyche of Virat Kohli, another one of my favorites, to understand what is it that makes him tick. That's it for today. Take care, stay safe, keep smashing it, and cheers.